Hi, I'm Diana, the artist behind MyMcDoodles. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make a pattern in Procreate. Making patterns in Procreate 5X is really easy. There are a few tools that'll help you make sure your pattern is aligned and that make creating a repeat pattern super simple on your iPad. The pattern we're going to create today will be a simple polka dot pattern that is just a basic repeat pattern. This is the color palette that I'll be using today. If you would like to use the same palette that I'm using, I'll have it available on my website along with information on our Pretty Pattern Challenge. This is a whole month of pattern creation throughout the month of February, and each day there'll be different prompts to follow. And you can just post your work on Instagram and hashtag us with Pretty Pattern Challenge, and you could tag the hosts, which are myself, MyMcDoodles, and Crystal's illustrations. I like to create a canvas that is a square. I made a 3000 by 3000 pixel square. That's generally the size I make when I post things to Instagram and things like that. So I am going to work with that size square, but you can make whatever size you wish. But that's the size I'll be working with today. It's also at 300 dots per inch to make sure that the resolution is high enough to use in print-on-demand websites. So what I'll do first is set up my canvas and create a grid. And that helps things stay aligned and makes it a little easier to make sure things are spaced properly and things like that. So you can go to the Actions menu, which is that wrench at the top of the screen, and then go to Drawing Guide, and it defaults to this grid. The grid size is too small for me, so I'm going to push Edit Drawing Guide, and I want to make it evenly spaced. I know I'm making polka dots, and I'm going to make them in kind of like an offset pattern. So I want to make my grid size spaced evenly. I know this document is 3000 pixels wide, so I like to split that evenly across. So I'm going to put 750, and that gives me 4 equal squares across, 4 equal squares vertical, and press done. And that'll help me line up my polka dots a little better. So I'll make a new layer on top of my color palette there and choose my first color. In this case, it doesn't matter. You don't have to really worry too much about the color you're choosing because you can always recolor it later. I'm going to be using this Inka brush in the inking section of the brush library. It comes free with the Procreate app. I've modified mine a little bit to make the ends less tapered, but it's the same base brush. So my first polka dot, I want to put it right in the center of the canvas here. So I'm just going to draw like a real messy circle. And I want this to be like whimsical and fun. I don't necessarily want like all perfect circles. And I'd like to leave a little bit of like the white gaps in the paint so it doesn't look like too perfect. I feel like you can buy a perfect polka dot pattern anywhere, or you can find that anywhere. So I want to make something a little bit unique. So I have my circle, but you can see it's not lined up in the exact center of the canvas. So you can do that by choosing this arrow, so you can move your item around and then go down here to snapping and make sure you have magnetics and snapping turned on. And I have both of mine all the way to the max. That'll help me make sure it gets exactly in the middle. And you can see it makes these yellow lines whenever it's exactly lined up. It might be hard to see on the camera, but when you have it perfectly centered, and it will snap to the grid and it'll make those yellow lines. It's important not to let go until you see the yellow lines. This is a new feature in Procreate 5X that's been extremely helpful in making sure things are lined up, especially with pattern creation. So my first dot is there. So I want to make a few more, but I don't want them all to be exactly the same, so I'm just going to draw them in freehand. I'll make all my dots in new layers so that they can be easily moved around, and I'm going to make them different colors, but in the end I might have to recolor some of them based on what the pattern looks like when it's repeated. So I'll speed up the video now while I add my dots, and then I'll show you how to arrange them. So I have all my dots. I did make sure they were all generally about the same size. I don't want it to look like too wonky where there's some really little, some really big. So I moved them over top of my middle one just to make sure that they were about the same size. They're not perfectly circular. If you want to just repeat the one dot that you drew first, and just copy and paste or duplicate the layer to make these 5 dots, that's a really fast way to do it too. And you can always recolor the other ones. They don't have to all be blue. So that's one way to do it. But I wanted all of mine to be different, so I just drew each one in separately. So I have my 5 dots. I want to have one in the center and then one on these 4 points here, and they're all evenly spaced. They might not be perfect yet, but they're, in general, this is how I want the pattern to be. And then we'll add some more dots onto the edges to make sure that it repeats properly. So first we want to make sure that these are evenly spaced, or else it will look a little bit weird when it starts repeating. You'll start to notice problems. So what I'll do is, I already know this blue one is perfectly in the center. So I'll just work through each layer by layer and make sure that they are also snapped to this grid. The grid makes it really easy to see if it's not perfectly lined up. You can see the blue dot here is not on the grid, so it's not perfectly spaced. So what we can do is just drag it over until it snaps. It'll have those yellow lines. If it gives you trouble snapping, you can always check and make sure that this blue node is exactly on the line here by just zooming in as far as possible and then making sure that it's lined up. Okay, so that looks like it's perfectly lined up. Okay, so that looks good. If for some reason yours isn't snapping, then try it where snapping's turned off but leave magnetics on, and then you can slide it around, or you can even use your pencil to like nudge it by selecting it, and then you just tap 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 and it'll scoot up like a pixel at a time by tapping on the screen. So mine looks like it is lined up now. And another trick I learned, if you're trying to move it with your finger or your pencil and it's like your hand shakes when you lift it up, don't lift up your don't deselect it that way. Just keep your finger down and then just use the other hand to turn off the arrow, and then it'll stay exactly where you had it. You don't have to worry about when you lift your hand, it's nudging it. So these look like they're all lined up. So for now I'm going to leave the colors like that, but I'm going to add more dots in so that it duplicates properly. I'm going to save all these into a group, and then see to duplicate that, turn that off, flatten this. Okay, so this is my first 5 dots. I'm just going to leave like that. I already have my colors, so I'm going to delete out that. So I need some more dots. I'm going to go into my originals and you go from there and duplicate them. So I think I'll grab a let's see, I guess a dark blue. You have to think about how it's going to repeat. So if I grab yellow and I put it here or here, well, this part's going to repeat here, so then you'll have 2 yellows next to each other. But the dark blue will work because it's in the center. So I'm going to just go with that, and then I can always recolor things later on. So I duplicated that, and then I'm going to move it to the top, and I have that one to work with, and I'm just going to duplicate it one more time actually. So let's grab the first one and make sure you have snapping and magnetics turned on, and then you just scooch it up until it snaps right there. So you can see it's cut exactly in half, and there was a yellow line to indicate that it snapped exactly to the grid. So then I'll grab my other one and scoot it down. That menu is a little bit in the way, but I did see that yellow line pop up, so I know that that's snapped exactly to the grid, and we'll check it at the end too to make sure. So that's exactly half and half, and then I'll grab that blue dot again. Let's just merge all this down. So I'm going to grab the blue dot again, take it all the way to the top, turn my originals back off, and then I'm going to need 2 more, so I'm going to need one here and one here. So duplicate it. Let's just grab one at a time, and then we're going to snap it over here. So scoot it over until it snaps to the edge. And then we'll grab this one and scoot it to the right until it snaps to the edge. Okay, and then we need something in the corners. So let's see. Whatever's color we choose is going to repeat all over. So I'm going to have to recolor some of these at the end. I can see that there are going to be colors that are right next to each other. But for now, let's just get our dots on the page. So let's just group all that down just to keep things kind of cleaned up here. And we have everything that we've worked on so far. So I'm going to grab the blue one, and well, I'll grab a different one because I want a different shape. So let's see, I don't want to put the shape right next to each other. Well, let's just grab this light pink one. I like that one. And take that one all the way to the top. Okay, because I don't want all my circles to look the same. So I'll duplicate that, and this time we're going to need 4 of them. Okay, I did something wrong. You should always duplicate from your original. So I'm going to keep going to that bottom layer and duplicating that so that it doesn't get blurry by the time I've duplicated it 4 times. So let's turn these off and work with our first one here. We're going to snap it over and then up into the corner, so you're left with a quarter circle. So there we go. I'm just gonna, it's kind of like save my work in between snaps by turning off the select. That way I can undo if I need to. And then we'll snap it up until it meets in that corner. All right, let's grab our next one. Whoopsies. That one. Okay, so then we're going to take it down into the left-hand corner. So take it all the way down. It's hard to see with that menu. There we go. Okay. I like to turn that off so it saves in between in case I need to go back, and then snap it over there. Okay, and we'll do that 2 more times. So here is our pattern. Let's check it before we move on. It's going to be recolored, but I want to make sure everything looks good before we go through all the recoloring process. So I'm just going to clip everything down, and the way to check it is you duplicate it. I'm going to turn that off, keep it as my original. I don't want to mess around with the one that I just created. So I'm going to work with my duplicate. So take your duplicate, and you're going to make it 1/4 of the size, and you can see the width and the height in the pop-up box there. It should say like half of your width and half of your height. So mine was 1500 by 1500. I know I'd snapped because I saw those yellow lines. So that's perfectly 1/4. So let's repeat it and make sure that this pattern works without any weird misalignments. So you duplicate it again, and then let's just snap it over to here. That looks good. Duplicate it again. And then drag it down till it snaps. And one more time and drag it there. And so you can see it looks pretty good, and then just zoom in and make sure all your stuff lines up properly and it's not like skewed a little bit to the left or right, or doesn't look like it has any weird seams, and just to check it. So I really like it. I can see this pink dot needs to be changed. So I'll have to rework the colors a little bit just to get it so that it's laid out without having like 2 colors right next to each other like that. So I'll work on that, but this is the basic way that you could make a repeat pattern out of polka dots, and then I'll show you different ways that you can use this. So if you were to export this as a pattern, you don't want to use this one you just made on this little square. You want to take that as like your tester page, but don't use it as your pattern. You want to use this block. So you can look on like Spoonflower, you can use this, you just upload this block and they will repeat it for you. So you can get fabric printed and sell fabric with your designs and stuff like that with just this block. But if you're uploading your designs to print-on-demand websites like Society6 or like Redbubble and so on, you can't use this block. It's too small. It's only 3,000 pixels wide. So you would need to repeat it, but you don't want to just like shrink it down and repeat it within this box. You have to look to see what products use what size canvas, and they have like all the requirements listed on their website. So I logged on to Society6 so I could show you. They have so many different products here that you can get your designs printed on, and you will need to create your work in different sizes depending on what you plan to print it on. So say for example you want to make like some bedding or a blanket or a shower curtain or something like that. They have requirements for the canvas size. So when you create your account, you can go here to sell. So when you add new artwork, you can go here, view all product size requirements, and it will tell you the dimensions for every single product that they offer. So you can see here the list of products they offer and the pixel dimensions that they require, the minimum that they require. And for certain things that are not necessarily like a repeat pattern on across, if your pattern has different elements you want to line up in different places, they have templates you can use to make sure it's lined up like on a backpack where the front pouch and like the zipper is. You can make sure it's all lined up the way you want it to look. So all the requirements are here, so just take a look and then make a canvas in this size, and then you're going to use that to repeat your pattern within. So that's why you need to save that block here somewhere safe so you have it and you can use it to repeat as many times as you need to create a large canvas for your products that you would like to sell. So once you have your basic pattern created, there's a lot of fun ways you can mess around with it. Is just try different things, recoloring it, or I just even noticed by mistake that my repeat pattern combined with my original, it kind of makes like a cute pattern too. So you could do something with that. You could merge that down and then repeat that and make it like a fun kind of polka dot pattern that's a little bit different than just like your plain polka dots here. I think that looks kind of fun too. So there's a lot of different things you could do, like mess around with it and see how many different kind of polka dot patterns you can create. So this was just a quick short tutorial today on making a polka dot pattern. If you share your work on Instagram, then tag me at MyMcDoodles so I can see what you've created. If you'd like to participate in the Pretty Pattern Challenge, then we'd love to have you. Make sure you hashtag it Pretty Pattern Challenge and tag the hosts, which are MyMcDoodles and crystals.illustrations, and the information will be in the description below, and you can find us on Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.